Hello everyone and welcome to week 2 for English 1510. The basic overview for the class on a 12-week section here. I have moved the overview for week 1 down to the posting with week 1 for your prior readings and assignment schedule. Most students, it seems, have all gotten their textbooks as far as the commentary and the feedback and things that we've gotten so far for the course. Everybody's up to date on those. And then out of the students on roster, I have the majority of students have all submitted the FERPA and academic honesty forms, the diagnostic writing that was due by Sunday, and then there are some students who still haven't participated in the discussion board, as there are in a few of these categories without submitting things, but there's not a lot I can do to chase students around on these things. And please recall in the online sections, you know, it's signing up for one of these things. It is the responsibility of the student to stay up on the schedule once these things are posted. And again, everything for this course is laid out right here under course schedule and tentative work plan of work on here. And so the assignment schedule, you know, will not adjust. I wouldn't move anything forward on anybody, so it's pretty clear as to what's due week to week. So this first week, it seems everybody has, for the most part, I have I'm up to 36, 37 postings on one class for the discussion boards. I have around the same number for the other 1510, and then of the FERPA and academic honesty forms, out of 25 students on roster, I think there are 21 submissions in one class, or sorry, 22 submissions in one class and 23 in the other, which suggests only a couple of students didn't submit. And then diagnostic essay numbers are right around the same. So make sure that those things are in. Again, late submissions for the class are not accepted, so make sure that you're getting work in on time without written documentation as to why something would be missing. There's nothing that is taken into consideration on those. Now, week 2, listed right here. Please note that that overview that moved down here from week 1 was posted at the top. Today's overview will be listed right here, posted at 6 p.m. this evening on Monday, going over the past week of things that were submitted and then into this week of work. Each week with these, the video posting will be the same. It will be an overview that posts at the top, and then the week afterwards it will be moved down to its subsequent week here on the corresponding week, excuse me, that it was released with originally. So after this week, the week 2 video will remain here, at least for the first couple weeks, until it posts up the next portion of the schedule around week 4, which will open you up weeks 5 through 8 as stated prior. So week 2, we have for all editions, it's a pretty simple, straightforward week. If you did the week 1 reading and discussion board and those submissions, this week you just have the reading, and then you're going into your summary outline for a memoir. Now, for this class, it seems I only have 3rd and 4th editions of the book. I already have the 2nd edition posted up, but it means that during the weeks 5 through 8, if I don't hear different from any other student, I'll just post the 3rd and 4th editions on those. But the memoir and summary outline, as stated before, if you complete those readings, then all you have to do is go into the Dropbox here, and all the content for this assignment and what you're doing for this memoir piece is all listed in that Dropbox. Now, there is a presentation in there, and that presentation is a little bit longer. It's 20-some minutes, but it's just a staple that goes over the basics for this assignment. So make sure that you watch this video. Note that the documents for this, there are 2 primary things that are due for this assignment. They're both on the same worksheet. The template is provided below. The summary and then the outline. So make sure you read through these completely. The summary means that you're going to give a full 250-word minimum description of what your summary of your memoir is, right? So explaining to the reader the story that I'm going to use for this is as follows. This is what happens. This is the complication that's going to come about. This is how it advances. This is how it's resolved. Make sure those primary details are included. Make sure that you have very clear ideas as to what your story is about. Don't be suggestive with this. Be very clear and straightforward. Okay, read through the example paper that's included. Read through some of the things that are listed on here as all the examples and instructions. I give a number of different scenario possibilities on this that play out in different ways. Make sure you read through all all of this description on here. It's in 3 different sections on this. The opening portion on here is just the breakdown of what these pieces are, some basic rules on these. Make sure that you include your name and date and things on the graphic organizer. Make this strictly narrative. Avoid dialogue unless absolutely necessary. I think at this stage of the writing, most students have a fairly difficult time with dialogue, especially in how it's formatted and whether or not it's necessary for the piece you're writing. Most of the time, it's much easier to write in indirect quoting, meaning that you're explaining what someone said but not as a direct quote. So saying, so and so commented on the following thing and made a statement to this effect. If it's absolutely necessary, obviously it can be quoted, but try not to break from the as much as you can keep from breaking from it. Try to stay with the framing of this 5-paragraph essay in this. It should be an intro that leads in, a lead-in thesis statement. 3 body paragraphs. The first one that gives the story and then the complication at the end. Body 2 that advances it, and body 3 that resolves it, and then the conclusion, obviously, it tells the more of your story. Now, down here in the second part, after the notes on this, you're given the instructional overview. So the first part was just the basics of what the assignment is. Second part is the instructional overview, gives you some scenarios and how they'd be broken down. And then in section 3 down here, it actually gives you a breakdown of a general framing of one of these in an intro, body 1, body 2, body 3, and what goes in each one of these different parts of the story. So the different documents are listed down here at the bottom of the page. Very straightforward. The rubric is here. The rubric states the assignment is to tell a story that introduces, explains, and resolves a complicated situation that you are in, and then derive a moral from the story, a lesson that you learned. These should be engaging tales with tension and drama that hinge on a complication that is introduced at the end of body 1. That means that you give an intro paragraph that simply gives the general category you're in. Remember, it does not state directly, and it does not end in a thesis statement that gives the complication. It ends in a thesis statement that suggests or hints at the complication. The complication is not given to the reader until we get to the end of body 1. So your intro paragraph should be suggestive of the story, not telling the story details. Then body 1 actually tells the story. Make sure you review the student example on this for a very clear understanding of it. But it's pretty straightforward once you get through looking at the example and breaking that down. Now, they should be engaging tales with tension and drama that hinge on a complication that is introduced at the end of body 1. Meaning at the end of the body 1, your story should have you at a stopping point where you found yourself in some kind of trouble. A problem that needs to be resolved. These don't have to be true stories, but obviously, I'm not checking on anyone to see whether or not they were true stories or anything like this, but it's usually easier for students to draw from their personal experience if it is. If you're having a hard time making something fit, then by all means, just make up a story that fits in these parameters. It does not have to be something of true events from your life. It just matters that it actually fits within these parameters for this type of a story, okay? For the memoir. It's simply an exercise in learning this format. So, complication is a story, the complication is the problem of the story that must be resolved. So maybe the body 1, there would be an overarching question, like if you end in a situation where you got yourself in some trouble. Is it a situation where you're wondering, will I make it out of this alive? Or will my parents find out? Will I get in trouble for something that I did? Is this the end of a relationship, etc.? The entire memoir hinges on that complication. The memoir should include insights into the your perspective, thoughts, and feelings. That's predominantly in body 2. You'll understand that when you read all the instructions on that. Story should be interesting and unique, and as the word complicated suggests, there should be a very clear problem that arises at the end of body 1 that must be resolved by body 3. Your paper should include the following information in this order. The introductory paragraph, it should use a general to specific layout. So start with a general category. If your story is about a time you snuck out and thought you were getting away from it and realized you're about to get in trouble, perhaps the opening of the body 1 is, there are a number of things kids do that are against their parents' rules that kids do in the name of fun. Then a specific example on that might be, for instance, we once were told we weren't allowed to eat such and such, but we went ahead and did so after my parents went to bed, and we got ourselves sick eating too much sweets or whatever it is. Then your thesis statement gives a suggestion about that as a lead-in, and then body 1 would be telling the actual story of whatever the details are. Perhaps you snuck out with friends and decided to go to some party you weren't supposed to be going to, only to find out that your ride that you had there fell through, and now you weren't going to be able to get back without calling your parents, perhaps. Or at the end of body 1 you realize you have no way to get home. And so then body 2 would be you trying to think your way through that problem. Then body 3 would be you resolving it, either getting a ride home from someone that does avoid you getting in trouble with your parents, or having to call your parents and resign yourself to facing the music with getting in trouble there, and letting them know you actually did sneak out, and all that how that plays out. So the general to specific intro, general specific, then the thesis is a lead-in suggestion, hints at the complication. Body 1 would describe the story, what happens, and then it should end with the complication, the problem that must be resolved. Body 2 would advance it. That means once the actual problem starts, body 2 is talking about your reaction to it. In that moment I was freaking out. I didn't know if I'd be able to get a ride home. I was going to get in trouble if I got caught being out this late, and against my parents' will, whatever it is. And then resolution, body 3. Body 3 should be how did it actually resolve, and the conclusion is just the moral of the story. Okay, those are the documents. That's the first document that's included there in the Dropbox. The second one here, the third one I'll actually point to now, that is an actual very well organized student essay from this assignment from a few years ago that I've changed some of the details so it's not identifiable as that student. But there are two pieces there. One is the essay itself, and then if you look at okay, so here on the on student example paper on this piece, you're looking at what is essentially an exact layout. A student essay. I've changed any identifiable marks, but it's a student memoir that was written in perfect form. You can see the general to specific layout. Most parents teach their kids something about how to deal with bullies. Sometimes they teach them this, sometimes they teach them that. This is a general statement. This is a specific one. It's giving examples without giving the person's exact topic. And then other parents teach kids to do this verbally or whatever. In my household, however, bullying was not even addressed. So it goes general, specific into this student's topic, and then the thesis. When I was faced with my first bully, I had no idea how to act. Learned very quickly it's a good idea to have some instruction in this area. This suggests the complication. It doesn't give it away. And if we read through body 1 tells the story, and the complication comes when the student actually hits a classmate. So that's the complication, dealing with the bully. Body 2 advances the story by telling thoughts and feelings and emotional reactions to the situation. Body 3 resolves it by the person actually facing consequences and having to deal with both the classmate's family and his own and the school. The conclusion tells the moral of the story. Now, the second drafting of this, it's all labeled so you can see these specific categories. Don't forget to review all this. It labels the general, specific, your topic, thesis. Here it gives topic, sentence, all supportive details. There's the complication. Begins with the impasse, or begins with starting off with the internal dialogue. Ends with the impasse, not knowing how to resolve, and then concludes or gives the complication resolution in body 3 and concludes with the moral of the story. An additional layout that follows it right here on the outline basics. The assignment, what you guys are filling out for this week, is this template. And this is it. You guys fill out. Make sure you read the instructions, remove any examples that are there, a 250-word minimum of a summary that tells what the story is you're going to be using, what the complications in it is for that story, and how it will resolve. In each one of these categories, remove any instructional statements and write at least one sentence for these. There's another example used here from a kid who went on a trip to Germany. Remove the topic sentences, give at least 5 details on these, including the impasse and everything else. Okay? That's it for this week, folks. Make sure that you get those in by next week. I'll be posting